The alien market was loud, filled with voices shouting, bargaining, and laughing. Strange lights flickered across broken stalls, and the air smelled of rust, smoke, and fear. In the middle of this cruel place, a small figure sat in chains. It was a girl, not human, not strong, not shining like the other slaves who were sold for high prices. She was weak, thin, and covered in scars. Her eyes had lost all hope long ago. The traders called her the broken toy. They mocked her, saying she was useless, worthless, and ready for the trash. Other aliens walked by, looking at her with disgust. No value, one said, shaking his head. Better to throw her into the garbage pit. Another laughed. The girl did not even react anymore. She was too tired, too broken to care. But then something unexpected happened. Among the crowd, a human walked in. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. Most aliens feared them, some hated them, and others simply ignored them. But this human walked with calm steps, his eyes sharp and searching. He stopped in front of the broken toy. The traders laughed again. "Human, you don't want this one," they said. "She is broken, no spirit left, no strength, a mistake, a failure." They shook the chains to prove how weak she was. The girl kept her head down, refusing to meet the human's gaze. She thought, why would anyone care? But the human didn't laugh. He didn't turn away. Instead, he knelt down, looking at her closely. His voice was low, but firm. "I'll take her," he said. The traders froze for a second, then they burst out laughing. "You want this trash?" They asked. "You must be mad, human. Look at her, she is nothing." But the human repeated, "I'll take her." He placed credits on the table, more than the traders expected. The deal was made, the chains were unlocked, and the girl stumbled. Almost falling, she had no strength in her legs, no belief in her heart. She expected the human to beat her like all the others before. But instead he caught her gently, holding her up so she wouldn't fall. This was the first time in years that anyone had touched her without cruelty. The crowd whispered. "Strange human," they said. "What is he planning? Why waste credits on broken trash?" But the human ignored them. He led the girl away from the market step by step. The girl followed, her chains dragging, her mind spinning. She thought, why? Why me? Why now? As they walked through the dark streets, the human finally spoke again. "You are safe now," he said softly. The girl shook her head, not believing it. She had heard words like that before, and they always ended in pain. Her heart whispered, "This must be another trick." But something in the human's voice felt different. There was no mockery, no coldness, only warmth. When they reached his small ship, he offered her food and water. The girl hesitated, staring at it like it was poison. Her hands shook as she reached out. She took a small bite, then another. Tears filled her eyes as the taste of real food touched her tongue for the first time in years. The human watched quietly, not forcing her, not rushing her. He simply let her eat, let her breathe. For the first time, she felt something strange deep inside her chest. It was not pain, not fear, not despair. It was small, fragile, and almost forgotten. It was hope. But her mind still asked questions. Who was this human? Why did he save her when no one else cared? What did he want in return? Her heart warned her not to trust, but her soul whispered that maybe, just maybe, this human was different. In the shadows of the alien market, the traders still laughed. They thought they had fooled the human, selling him broken trash. They didn't know that he had seen something they could not. He had seen more than a broken toy. He had seen a soul waiting to be repaired. And so the story began. The story of a human who bought what others threw away, and a girl who would learn that even a broken heart could beat again. The alien girl sat inside the small ship, her hands trembling, her eyes filled with confusion. She had never been inside a ship like this before. Clean, quiet, safe. Her body was weak, her mind broken. Yet something inside her whispered that this place was different. But she did not believe in safety anymore. She did not believe in kindness. every time she thought she was safe. The pain always returned, so she waited, silent, expecting the human to show his true face. The human moved calmly, pressing buttons, starting the ship, preparing to leave the market. He didn't look at her like the others did. He didn't see her as trash. He simply moved with focus, like someone who had already made a choice. She stared at him, her heart beating fast. Finally, she whispered in a broken voice, Why did you buy me?" Her words were weak like a dying flame. The human turned, his eyes sharp but soft. "Because you are alive," he said. "Because you don't deserve to be left there." The girl froze. The answer felt strange, unreal. No one had ever spoken like that to her. Her masters before had called her weak, dirty, useless. But this human, he spoke as if her life had meaning. Her voice shook. "You wasted your credits. I am nothing." The human leaned forward, his tone steady. "No one is nothing," he said. "You are not broken. You are not trash." The girl looked away, tears forming in her eyes. She wanted to believe him, but her heart was full of scars. She whispered again, "You don't know what I am." The human didn't push her. He simply returned to his seat and started the engines. The ship lifted off, leaving the market behind. Outside, the stars stretched across the sky like endless. The girl had not seen stars like this in years. For a moment she forgot her pain and simply stared, but the fear returned quickly. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice breaking. Every master before wanted something: work, pain, or worse. She was ready to hear the same. She was ready to be used again. The human's reply was simple. "Nothing," he said. "I don't want anything from you." The girl shook her head, refusing to believe it. No one ever wanted nothing. Her chest tightened, fear mixing with confusion. He saw the doubt in her eyes. So he spoke again, slower. "You have been hurt. I can see it. But I don't want to hurt you. I want to give you a chance." The girl looked at him in shock. Her lips trembled. "A chance?" The word felt heavy, strange, almost impossible. She had never been given a chance. Never been given a choice. Her whole life had been chains, commands, punishments. What did a chance even mean? She hugged her knees, trying to hide her face. Her voice cracked. "You don't understand. They broke me. There is nothing left to save." The human's eyes darkened, not with anger at her, but at the galaxy that had done this. He clenched, his fist remembering the cruelty he had seen before. "No one is beyond saving," he said. "I don't care what they did to you. You are still alive, and as long as you are alive, you can heal." The girl stared at him, her heart beating faster. Part of her wanted to scream, to push him away, to say he was lying. But another part, a small part, wanted to believe. A voice deep inside her whispered, "What if he is telling the truth?" Her silence stretched, heavy and fragile. The ship hummed as it flew through the dark sky. The human brought her a blanket, placing it gently over her shoulders. She flinched, expecting pain, but no pain came, only warmth. She held the fabric tightly, confused by this simple act of kindness. For the first time in years, her body felt safe, but her mind still refused. She whispered again, almost too soft to hear, "If I stay with you, what will happen to me?" The human answered, "You will rest, you will eat, you will heal. That is all." Her heart shook. It sounded too simple, too impossible. No chains, no beatings, no demands. Just rest, food, healing. Could such a life exist for someone like her? She wanted to ask more, but her tired body betrayed her. Her eyes closed, and she fell into the first peaceful sleep she had known in years. The human watched her quietly, his expression unreadable. He knew the galaxy would not forgive him for this choice. The slave traders would not forget. The hunters would come. But he didn't care. He had made his choice. He had chosen to save one life, even if it cost him everything. And so, the ship flew into the stars, carrying two broken souls, one who had already chosen and one who had yet to believe. The galaxy whispered of danger ahead. But for now, inside that ship, a spark of hope had been lit. The alien girl woke slowly, her body heavy, her mind lost between fear and confusion. For a moment she panicked, wondering if she was still in chains, if she was still in the market. But when her eyes opened, she found herself lying on a soft bed inside the ship. A blanket covered her, warm and gentle. Her heart beat faster, unable to understand. No master had ever given her a bed. No master had ever let her sleep in peace. She sat up quickly, her hands shaking, her eyes darting around the room. There were no chains, no guards, no cruel laughter. The human sat at the far side of the ship checking screens and pressing buttons. When he noticed she was awake, he turned, his eyes calm. "You're safe," he said. The girl stared at him, not believing. Safe was a word she had forgotten, a word that felt like a lie. He stood and placed something on the table, a tray with food and water, her stomach, twisted with hunger, but her mind whispered warnings. It could be poisoned, she thought. It could be a trick. The human didn't push her. He simply left the tray where she could reach. He stepped back, giving her space. The girl waited, her chest tight, then slowly, carefully she picked up the food. Her first bite made her eyes water. The taste was real, not the spoiled scraps she was used to. Her hands shook as she ate faster, afraid it would be taken away. But the human didn't stop her. He only said softly, "Eat. No one will take it from you." The words pierced her heart like light cutting. Through shadows she slowed down, tears falling. Her voice was weak but trembling. Why are you doing this?" The human answered with no hesitation. "Because you deserve to live, not just survive." The girl dropped her gaze. Her throat-burning deserve, she thought. "I deserve nothing." Every voice from her past screamed at her, reminding her of the pain, the chains, the cruelty. But the human's words kept echoing, refusing to fade. Later, when her hunger was calmed, she sat silently, her arms hugging her knees. The human was repairing a broken piece of equipment, his hands steady, his eyes focused. She watched him, studying the way he worked. There was no anger in his movements, no cruelty, only patience. Her lips moved without thinking. "You're different," she whispered. The human looked up, raising an eyebrow. "Different how?" he asked. She froze, unsure if she had made a mistake. Her voice trembled as she answered. "You don't treat me like trash." The human set his tools down, his expression softening. "No one should be treated like trash," he said firmly. "You are alive. That is enough reason to be respected." The girl's chest tightened. Her heart wanted to believe, but her scars whispered doubt. Still, something inside her stirred, something small, something fragile. It was not trust, not yet, but it was close. It was the first spark of hope. That night she lay awake, unable to sleep. The stars outside, the ship's window glowed like silver fire, endless and free. She pressed her forehead against the glass, watching them with wide eyes. For years she had been trapped in cages, forced to stare at walls and darkness. Now the stars whispered of freedom. Though her heart still feared it was only a dream, the human's voice came from behind her. "Do you miss your home?" he asked quietly. She stiffened, memories flooding her mind. A world full of green skies, silver rivers and laughter. A world burned to ash, stolen by war. Her lips shook as she whispered, "I don't have a home anymore." The human's eyes darkened with sorrow. "I'm sorry," he said. The girl turned, her tears glistening. "No one ever said sorry to me before," she whispered. The words broke something inside her. She covered her face, crying not from pain but from the weight of his kindness. The human didn't touch her, didn't force comfort. He simply stood near, his presence steady, like a shield. The girl felt her chest ache. For so long she had believed she was worthless, unwanted, unloved. But now, in the quiet of the ship with stars shining above, she felt something new. She felt like maybe her life could still matter. But hope was dangerous, she knew. Hope could be crushed, hope could betray. Still, even with fear, the spark refused to die. It burned softly in her chest, and as she lay down again, her eyes heavy with exhaustion, she whispered a silent thought. Maybe this human truly is different. Far away in the shadow of the galaxy, the slave traders spoke in anger. They had lost their broken toy and they wanted her back. Hunters were already moving, their eyes set on the human's ship. The girl did not know it yet, but her fight was not over. Her journey was only beginning, and the spark of hope she had found would soon be tested by fire. The alien girl sat in silence inside the ship, her hands holding the edge of the blanket. The human was nearby, repairing wires and checking systems, his movements calm and steady. She wanted to speak, but her throat felt heavy. Her heart weighed, down by memories. Every time she closed her eyes, shadows returned, voices echoed, and the chains rattled in her mind. The human glanced at her, noticing the storm behind her eyes. He didn't push her, he didn't ask questions. He simply said, "When you are ready, you can tell me." His voice carried no command, only patience. The words shook her heart, because no one had ever given her that choice. For hours, she stayed quiet, fighting with herself. One part wanted to bury the pain forever, the other part wanted to release it. Finally, as the ship drifted through the stars, she whispered, "My world, it is gone." The human looked up slowly, his expression serious. "Gone?" he repeated. The girl hugged her knees, her voice trembling. "They came. The war machines, the soldiers, the fire." Her eyes burned as she spoke. "They destroyed everything, our homes, our families, our skies." Her voice broke, but she forced herself to continue. "I was young when it happened. I watched my mother fall. I saw my father fight until he could not stand. They told me to run, but there was nowhere to run." Her fingers dug into the blanket, her nails pressing hard. "They caught me, put chains on me, sold me like an object, like a toy." The human's jaw tightened. His fists clenched, but he stayed silent, letting her speak. Her tears fell freely, each word carrying years of pain. "I was passed from master to master, beaten when I was weak, starved when I was slow. They laughed at me. They called me broken. Until I believed it, until I became what they said." Her body shook as if she could still feel the chains. "I forgot my name. I forgot my voice. I forgot who I was. All I knew was pain. Until nothing was left inside me." Her breath came out in sharp gasps like she was drowning in her own story. The human moved closer, but not too close, his voice steady. "You survived," he said firmly. Her eyes widened, confusion breaking through her tears. "Survived?" she whispered. He nodded, his gaze burning with quiet fire. "Yes, they tried to break you. But you are still here, still breathing, still fighting. That is survival." The girl shook her head, her tears falling. "Faster, no. I am broken. I am empty. I am nothing." The human leaned forward, his words cutting through her despair. "You are not nothing. You are the proof that they failed. They wanted to erase you, but you are still alive." Her heart pounded, torn. Between belief and fear, could she really be more than broken? More than the scars of her past? She wanted to argue, but his eyes held no doubt, no mockery, only truth. And for the first time, she felt the possibility that maybe he was right. Silence filled the ship, heavy but gentle. The girl wiped her tears with shaking hands, her voice soft. "Why do you care? I am not your people. I am not human." The human's answer came without hesitation. "You don't need to be human for your life to matter." Her breath caught, those words sinking deep into her soul. No master, no traitor. No one had ever told her that before. For so long she believed her life had no value. But now, with one sentence, he had given her a reason to hope. She looked at him, searching for a trick, but found none. Instead, she saw something even stranger. Anger, but not at her. It was anger at the galaxy, at the cruelty that had taken her childhood. His voice was low, filled with promise. As long as you are with me, no one will ever put chains on you again. Her heart trembled, wanting to trust, afraid to trust. But something inside her whispered that this human was different. For the first time, her story had been heard. Her pain had been seen. And instead of mockery, she had received respect. That night, she dreamed not of chains, but of stars. Not of laughter filled with cruelty, but of a voice telling her she mattered. And though the scars of her past were deep, a new thought began to grow. Maybe my story is not over, but far across the galaxy the slavers plotted. The girl's escape had insulted them, their pride wounded, their credits lost. They sent messages to hunters, warriors who tracked with no mercy. The human and the girl would soon be hunted. The past had been revealed, but the future would demand even greater strength. The ship drifted through the endless stars, its engines humming like a heartbeat in the dark. Inside, the alien girl sat quietly, her blanket wrapped tightly around her thin body. Her eyes were tired but softer now, no longer filled only with fear. The human had given her food, warmth, and words she never thought she would hear again. For the first time in years, her chest carried a spark of hope, fragile but alive. But outside their small world, the galaxy was not silent. The slavers, who had lost her, were furious, their pride burned like fire. They could not allow a human to humiliate them. They could not allow a slave to simply walk away. In dark chambers across the stars, deals were made, credits exchanged, bounty hunters were called, men and monsters with eyes sharp as knives. Their orders were clear. Find the human, take the girl, and bring her back in chains. The girl did not know this yet, but her dreams soon began to turn restless. She would wake in the night, her body shaking, her heart racing. Every shadow felt like a hand reaching for her. Every sound felt like chains rattling. The human noticed, his gaze sharp. "You feel it too," he said one morning. The girl looked at him with wide eyes. "Feel what?" she whispered. He turned his head toward the stars, his voice low. "Danger." The girl's stomach turned, the word clawing at her soul. "Are they coming?" she asked, her voice trembling. The human nodded slowly. "They will not let you go so easily." His words struck her like cold fire. Her fragile spark of hope flickered, fear threatening to swallow it again. The human placed a hand on the console, his jaw firm. "But let them come," he said. "They will not take you, not while I breathe." The girl stared at him, confused. No one had ever promised to protect her. No one had ever stood between her and the hunters. The thought made her heart race in a way she could not explain. Days passed and the tension grew. The ship's scanners picked up strange signals, faint but steady. The human adjusted the controls, his eyes sharp, his movements quick. "They are tracking us," he muttered. The girl froze, clutching her blanket like a shield. Her mind screamed with old memories, dark cages, cold laughter, endless chains. She whispered, "If they find me, I will only bring you trouble. Maybe you should leave me." The human turned sharply, his voice firm. "I will never leave you," he said, her breath caught, her eyes wide. "But why?" she asked. "Because you are not a burden," he replied. "You are a life worth saving." The words hit her like lightning, filling her chest with warmth and fear all at once. She had been called trash, toy, slave, nothing, but never worth saving. Her tears fell silently and she turned away, afraid he would see her cry. Suddenly alarms rang through the ship, red lights flashing. The human's eyes narrowed, his voice calm but urgent. "They found us," he said. The girl's hands shook, her throat tight. On the scanner, dark shapes appeared, hunter ships, fast and sharp, closing in. The human moved quickly, pressing controls. The engines roared louder. The girl clung to the seat, fear tearing through her chest. The stars outside blurred as the ship dived, twisted, and fled. But the hunters were relentless, their weapons charging, blasts of light shot past, shaking the ship. The girl screamed, covering her head. The human shouted over the noise, "Hold on!" The chase tore through asteroids and shattered moons. The human's hands moved like fire, dodging, weaving, escaping by inches. The girl dared to look, her eyes wide with terror. "They will catch us," she whispered. "Not today," the human growled. The ship shook violently as a blast hit the side, sparks flying. The girl fell, her body hitting the floor. But the human caught her before she could be hurt. His arms shielded her as more blasts rained down. Her heart raced, not just from fear but from the way he held her. Strong, steady, unshaken. She whispered, "Why do you risk everything for me?" His eyes burned as he answered, "Because no one else did, because someone has to." The word struck her soul. For the first time, she believed he meant them. He wasn't like the others. He wasn't lying. He was fighting for her, truly fighting. The ship spun, diving into a narrow gap between two burning asteroids. The hunters followed, their weapons ready. But the human smiled, a sharp, dangerous smile. "They think they are hunters," he said. "Let's show them what humans can do." With one last burst of speed, the ship vanished into the asteroid field. The hunters followed blindly. Explosions lit the darkness as rocks shattered, ships crashed, and fire spread. The human guided his vessel with perfect precision. When the smoke cleared, only his ship remained, silent and alive. The girl stared at him, her chest heaving, her eyes wide with awe. He had faced the hunters and he had won. Her voice was small, trembling. "You saved me again." The human looked at her, his expression soft but firm. "I will save you as many times as it takes." The girl's heart shook, the fragile spark inside her now burning brighter. The galaxy had thrown its first storm at her, but she had survived, not alone, but with him. And though fear still lived in her chest, something stronger now lived beside it. Hope was no longer just a spark. It was growing into fire, and the slavers who sent hunters would soon learn. The human was not just protecting her, he was declaring war. The stars burned like fire outside the ship as silence settled after the chase. The alien girl sat shaking, her heart pounding, her hands gripping the blanket tightly. She could not believe they had survived the hunters. She could not believe she was still breathing. But deep inside, she knew this was not the end. The slavers would not stop. Not now. Not ever. The human stood at the controls, his eyes sharp, his face hard. He knew more ships would come, stronger, faster, more ruthless. He turned to her, his voice calm but filled with iron. "This is not just about escape anymore," he said. "This is about freedom." The word struck her chest like thunder. Freedom. A word she had not dared to dream of. She whispered, "Freedom is impossible, they will always find me." But the human shook his head, his gaze unshaken. "Not if we fight, not if we stand, not if we show them you are no one's slave." The girl's throat tightened, fear battling against the spark inside her. She wanted to run, to hide, to vanish. But another part of her wanted to rise. Could she fight? Could she be more than broken? Her heart whispered that maybe she could. Not alone, but with him. Suddenly, alarms blared again, red lights flashing across the ship. The scanners lit up with signals. Multiple ships closing fast. The slavers had sent their strongest force. Not just hunters, but warships. The girl's stomach twisted, her body frozen with terror. "They are here," she whispered, her voice breaking. The human nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we finish this," he said. The sky exploded with light. As enemy ships surrounded them, weapons glowing. Voices crackled through the comms, cold and cruel. "Return the slave, human, and maybe we let you live." The girl flinched, her chains echoing in her memory. Her eyes filled with tears, her lips trembling. She whispered, "They will kill you. Please don't fight." But the human placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and warm. "They cannot kill what refuses to bow," he said. The battle began with a storm of fire. Blasts of plasma streaked across the darkness, shaking the ship. The human's hands moved like lightning, dodging, weaving, striking back. The girl clung to her seat, every explosion echoing like a scream in her mind. But through the chaos she saw him, steady, fearless, unbroken. "Hold this," he said suddenly, tossing her a small control panel. She caught it with shaking hands. "What is this?" she asked, terrified. His voice was firm but encouraging. "A chance to fight. You're not helpless, not anymore." Her chest pounded, fear clawing at her. But when she looked at his eyes, she saw belief, real belief. For the first time in her life, someone believed she could fight. Her hands trembled as she pressed the panel, energy surging through the ship. A hidden turret unfolded, firing blasts of light into the darkness. The enemy ships jolted, one bursting into fire. The girl gasped, her heart racing. She had done it. She had struck back, not as a slave, not as a toy, but as someone who mattered. The human smiled, fierce and proud. "That's it. You're stronger than they ever knew," he said. Her eyes burned with tears, not of sorrow, but of fire. For so long she had been broken, but now she felt something rise inside her. A warrior spirit she thought was dead. The battle raged on, explosions painting the stars. The slaver ships pressed harder, their voices screaming through the comms. "You cannot win, human, give us the girl. She is ours." The girl's hand shook, but she shouted back, her voice filled with trembling courage. "I am not yours. I will never be yours again." Her words cut through the comms like blades. The slavers roared in fury, their attacks growing desperate. But the human only laughed, a dangerous, fearless laugh. "She is free," he declared, "and anyone who tries to take her will fall." With a final burst of energy, the ship released its hidden weapon. A shockwave of burning light tore through the battlefield. Enemy ships exploded one by one, fire spreading across the dark sky. The hunters were gone. The warships shattered. Silence returned, broken only by the hum of the ship's engines. The girl sat frozen, her chest heaving, her eyes wide with disbelief. She had fought. She had survived. She had spoken against her masters. Her chains were not only broken, they were gone. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, I am free." The human turned, his eyes soft now, no longer burning with battle. "Yes," he said gently, "you are free, and no one will ever own you again." The girl covered her face, sobbing, but these tears were not of pain. They were tears of release, of strength, of rebirth. The spark inside her heart now burned like a flame, bright and unshaken. She was no longer a broken toy, no longer a slave. She was alive, she was strong, and she was free. But as the fire faded in the distance, the human knew the truth. The slavers would not forget. The galaxy would not forgive. More battles would come. More enemies would rise. This victory was not the end. It was only the beginning. And together, they would face whatever storm awaited. The battlefield was silent now. Broken ships drifting like ghosts in the darkness. Fires flickered in the distance, fading slowly into cold space. Inside the small ship, the alien girl sat trembling, her chest rising and falling, her eyes still wide with shock, her hands still shaking, but her soul felt different. For the first time in years she had fought, she had spoken, and she had not been crushed. The human moved quietly, checking the ship's systems, repairing broken wires. He was calm, steady, as if the battle had not shaken him, but his eyes softened when he looked at her. "You did well," he said, his voice warm. The girl froze, his words sinking into her heart like sunlight. No one had ever told her she had done well, not once in her life. She looked away quickly, hiding the tears that spilled down her cheeks. "I was afraid," she whispered, her voice trembling. The human smiled faintly. "Courage is not the absence of fear," he said. "It is standing even when you are afraid." The girl's heart shook, those words wrapping around her soul like a shield. For so long she had believed fear made her weak, but now she understood. Fear had not destroyed her, it had proven she was still alive, still human in her own way. Days passed as they drifted through the stars, far from the slave markets, far from the hunters. The girl began to heal, her body slowly regaining strength, her eyes regaining light. Every day she spoke a little more, laughed a little more, trusted a little more. The human never rushed her, never forced her. He simply stood by her side. Bit by bit, the chains around her heart began to break. One evening, as the ship floated, near a quiet planet, the girl sat by the window. The stars glowed like silver rivers, endless and bright. She whispered softly, almost too quiet to hear, "Why did you do it? Why did you save me?" The human stood behind her, his voice steady. "Because no one else did. Because you deserved more than pain. Because your life is not worthless." Her throat tightened, tears filling her eyes. "You don't even know me," she said. He stepped closer, his gaze strong. "I don't need to know your past to see your worth. I see it every time you breathe, every time you fight to live." Her tears spilled, but this time they were not tears of despair, they were tears of release. Her heart, once shattered, began to feel whole again, piece by fragile piece. Later, when she lay in bed, her mind drifted to the voices of her past. The masters who called her broken, the traitors who called her worthless. For so long she had believed them, carried their words like chains. But now another voice lived inside her. The human's voice, steady and unshaken, telling her she mattered. For the first time she believed it. One night she approached him while he worked on the ship's controls. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. "Thank you," she said. The human looked at her, surprised. "For what?" he asked. "For seeing me," she whispered. "For repairing what I thought was lost forever." The human's eyes softened, but his voice remained firm. "I didn't repair you," he said. "You repaired yourself. I only gave you the chance." Her lips trembled, her heart burning with emotion, but she knew he was right. She had chosen to eat, chosen to speak, chosen to fight, chosen to believe. For the first time, her choices were her own. As the days turned into weeks, the girl changed. Her shoulders no longer hunched in fear. Her eyes no longer stared only at the ground. She began to stand taller, to smile softly, to breathe freely. The broken toy was gone. In her place stood someone alive, someone free, but shadows still lingered in the galaxy. The slavers still lived. The hunters still searched. The girl knew danger would return. Chains would reach again. Yet her heart no longer trembled at the thought, because she was not alone, because she was no longer broken. Because now, she had someone who would stand with her. One evening, as they prepared to land on a peaceful world, the girl looked at the human. Her eyes burned with tears. Her voice soft but strong. "You did not just save me," she said. "You repaired my heart." The human said nothing, but his faint smile was enough. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, a promise of countless journeys, countless battles, countless stories. The galaxy had called her broken, worthless, nothing. But now she carried a new name inside her soul. Free. And so, their legend began. The tale of a human who bought what others threw away, and a girl who rose from chains to hope. The galaxy would remember her not as a toy, not as a slave, but as someone whose heart had been repaired. And this was not the end of her story, only the first chapter.